This video is brought to you by Mind Machine Digital Creation. Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to discuss Wu Wei, an ancient Chinese philosophy that literally means non-action or doing nothing. In the surface, it can be misinterpreted as a philosophy that promotes the habit of laziness. However, this concept is the noblest kind of action to the philosophy of Taoism. The early Taoist philosopher Tao Te Ching wrote, "The way never acts, but nothing left undone." And so, let us dig deeper to know the real meaning of Wu Wei and how can we apply it to our daily lives. According to the ancient text of Taoism, Wu Wei never promotes laziness. Instead, it suggests that we should base our actions in accordance with the natural order of things. Just like water that flows in the river, it flows gently around obstacles and never goes against them. Similarly, we should act in the same direction with the currents of life, rather than going against them. In this context, the best translation of Wu Wei is strategic non-action. Strategic non-action implies not forcing things as a way to deal with life, and learning how to align our actions to the natural flow of nature. It is about our willingness to accept the myriad of things that come out beyond our control, and learn how to do action spontaneously that truly adds value. We are all subject to the forces of nature. There are difficult challenges that we may encounter from time to time. At first, we may exert immense force to deal with it, and try to abruptly influence its outcome. More often, this situation creates unnecessary anxiety, and won't lead to success. As Lao Tzu said, "If you are depressed, you live in the past. If you are anxious, you live in the future. But if you are at peace, you live in the present." In this case, the strategic non-action tells us that the most effective way of dealing the situation is to consider the way of nature. Stay calm, trust the process. Because as we align our actions to what the natural order of things dictates, we can find solutions that often leads to achieve more while doing less. When you work with Wu Wei, it is just like you put the round peg in the round hole, and the square peg in the square hole. No stress, no struggle. Our ego will try to force the round peg into the square hole, and the square peg into the round hole. Our cleverness will try to devise craftier ways of making pegs fit where they don't belong. And our knowledge will try to figure out why round pegs fit into round holes, but not square holes. Wu Wei doesn't try. It doesn't think about it. It just does it. And when it does, it doesn't appear to do much of anything. But things get done. For example, in terms of career goals, it is fine to have a plan, but never force yourself to have a sudden shift. Instead, just go with the flow by applying minimal efforts in key places to develop positive change on your way up. In this way, the effort flows naturally from the tiny actions that you made earlier. A habit that is being developed through time will create its own current of behavior that becomes self-sustaining. Otherwise, it requires abrupt willpower and immense force to achieve what you want. After all, it is certainly easier to solve problems arising from tiny actions than in major ones. Thus, it is incorrect to view successful people as simply being lucky, or to assume that their success is caused by a force of will. More often, it comes from the habit of developing small efforts where small self-adjustments, and constantly evaluating feedbacks. Just observe the situation of the world today. It seems there is so much to do. In the middle of our desire for progress, personal achievement, and in some cases, our survival. To achieve the demand of these things, we need to embrace the essence of Wu Wei, which is simplicity. Each day, this concept will help us to align our actions with the natural flow of life. Here are a few things that we can try. Always consider the natural order of things. Do not ignore the process of nature. Do not think that everything can be done with force and try to control everything around you. There is no better teacher, and no better place to connect ourselves, but to the natural world itself. Letting go of how we think that things are supposed to look. It is common knowledge that there are many elements of life. As always, we constantly plan for every step along the way. However, there are various passageways and possibilities that we could not predict. For this reason, being open to spontaneity is important. Acknowledge that problems have a way of resolving themselves in time, and that action should be limited only to guiding the situation to resolve itself. Understand that what you resist will persist. By constantly paying attention to a problem, you are actually strengthening it. Some problems are actually best left alone to fade away. Avoid meeting tough problems head-on. Instead, solve them gradually by focusing on the weakest aspect first, until such time that it is completely solved. Lastly, we have to remind ourselves that the paramount principle of Wu Wei is that the essence of flow is not premeditated, but arises spontaneously. We can play our part to create the right conditions, we can bring ourselves into the ocean, build the best ship, but we can't predict the intensity of the wind. Thank you for watching.